drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. Thank you to those long-term listeners that listen to us every week. We appreciate you more than you could ever say. And welcome to any new listeners that we have. We'd love to have you aboard, and hopefully you'll stick around for many, many, many episodes to come. That being said, of course, my name is Jen. I am the hostess with the mostest, as always, here with you, except for that one time when I, had to bow out and Heno took over, which, by the way, Heno is amazing. I was re-listening to that podcast episode, and I can't say how much he just inspires me, and I love his outlook on things and his honesty, and just a great, great guy. So by all means, please look him up online, and he's on Angela's awesome podcast, which is also an amazing show. So if you like our show, you definitely will like their show, and vice versa. So spread the word. That being said, of course, with me every week is Brian. Hey, Brian.
Hi.
How's your week been?
Pretty tired. Remember?
Okay, fair enough. I mean, after last week, I fully expected that.
Right after our last show, I mentioned that I was doing a bunch of podcasts last week, and it was it caught up to me. I didn't end up going out on Saturday with friends. That all fell apart, but I still did all the podcasts, and just this week I've just been mentally just wiped out. I've had nothing. And,
sure.
So, and then, it's been nice on top of it. I've also had trouble sleeping the last couple nights, so it's...
That's not helpful.
No, not at all. So, yeah, it's been nice because I really loved doing all those shows, and, if you like listening to me, the episodes of Geek Dig, the Jedi Council that I was on, that's now posted, and so is the Moving the Needle episode where we talked about great actors in bad movies, which was a lot of fun. So it was like I said, it was a lot of fun to do them all. It's just, ooh.
Well, so I guess the question that I'm sure all our listeners are asking at their devices right now is it as bad as you were expecting it to be?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Like, by Sunday night, I got done with Moving the Needle, and it was, like I said, it was tons of fun. I love doing it. Can't wait to do it again. They said they'd like to have me back, so I can't wait to do it again. But it was just, when I was done, I was just like, so relieved, because I knew that was it. That was the end of it. And just, it was weird, though, because it was about half an hour or so after that I really felt anxiety just kind of creeping, basically picture shadows slowly covering something. That's kind of, I could feel, and I guess that's probably a strong analogy, but it's, that's what I felt, was just that, wanting to recede and hermit, just shut it all down, get away from everything, and I could really feel it, and I was like, so I kind of stayed away from stuff for a couple days, like I figured I was going to do,
Sure,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the key is you recognize that there's going to be a whiplash effect to it.
Yeah.
You did it anyways.
Yeah.
Which I think that's a huge win. is that even though you knew you were going to pay a price for it, you did it anyways because you knew that was going to make you happy. You knew you were going to enjoy yourself, and you didn't care. You're like, you know what? Forget it. Doesn't matter. I'll deal with it when it comes. And, you know, and it did come, which you were fully aware is going to be there.
Yep.
But you just faced it. You acknowledged it. You moved through it, you know, and I think that's awesome. I mean, that's huge. I mean, what an example for anyone out there that's struggling with the same issues.
I will say this, as I also very much recognize that where my life is right now affords me the opportunity. Like, I know I can basically go hard for a week and then lay off. You know,
take a couple days out.
Because of not having a job at the moment and stuff. So I don't have to worry about, oh man, I did all this weekend. I got to get up and go to work. I don't have that, you know. But you know, and before anybody gets, you know, too excited about that concept, it's like what I have instead is guilt for not having a job, and you know, and the everyday anxiety and depressions I'm fighting off of my chest. So it's, you know, it's not as glorious as it may seem. It's, you know, I understand on one hand I'm very lucky, but on the other hand I'm not, because the reasons I don't have those things are, you know, the reason that I'm doing this show.
It's not because you're retired or rich or anything.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah. Be retired, that'd be fantastic.
Wouldn't it? Oh my gosh.
So yeah,
and that's I agree with you 100%. Yeah. So, well, my week's been good. I think I've gone too far the other way, and I don't have quite as much planned, but I probably need to plan a few more things. You know, I'm starting to fall into my old patterns of, you know, sleeping a lot and, you know, and watching my TV a lot and stuff, which is great.
Yeah.
And these are things that are important, of course.
But that's basically, you've basically fallen into my week.
Yeah, it's, you know, getting up, going to work, coming home, watching some TV, going to bed, you know, lather, rinse, repeat.
Yep.
So, you know, I think maybe I need to, you know, work in a few extra things. Like maybe, I think a perfect balance would be maybe to have 2 days a week that I can just do that, and then 2 days a week when I can go do stuff, whether it's the podcast or a few other things, and then have a somewhat full weekend, shall we say. Maybe a half full weekend. How about that? So I think that's going to be a better balance for me. But it's not a bad thing. I think, you know, we all need our time down. So I think there's, you know, I'm not quite as busy as I was, which is a good thing. But maybe I'm not quite as busy, but quite busy enough. So I need to work on that a little bit. But I'm getting there, you know, and I'm still constantly working at that balance, which is a good thing.
Right.
Something that did happen, though, that I wanted to mention, I can't go into too much detail because it does involve work. So I want to make sure that, you know, we want to minimize that a little bit. You know, we don't want to necessarily go and put people on blast or anything.
Nope.
But I've been really struggling with, at work, a lot of stress around, I like things very structured. And where I'm at, things aren't very structured. And I'm a very hard worker, and I have a lot of pride in my work. And it's difficult when I get mixed messages. And I think I'm doing the right thing. But even if, and it turns out that I'm not, it's not my fault. No one's blaming me per se, but it still really affects me because I want to do things the right way. So even if it's not my fault that I was doing it the wrong way, it still really bothers me because, you know, I want so badly to do things the right way and meet expectations of what people want to see from me and stuff. So it's been really hard on my stress levels. And when my stress gets up, that's when my bipolar shows its ugly face more than not.
Yeah.
So I've had a couple situations where I've lost my cool. And it's just, I hate that because it's like, it's one of those things that it's so difficult because sometimes stepping away isn't enough.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone always recommends. Like, oh, just step away, cool down, and come back. Sometimes stepping away is not enough for me because what I need to get away from is what's in my head. And
Yeah.
stepping away only gives me more time to mull on all the stuff that's in my head and
Yeah.
kind of works myself up. What I really need is I need someone I can vent to and someone I can just, go, and just get it out.
Yeah.
Because once it's out, no problem. And I can move past it and we move on. So it's really...
Well, part of the problem, though, too, is that it's a repetitive thing.
Yes,
Like,
and this is
it'd
not
be
something I
different-
can change.
Yeah, we're not talking about, like, just having a bad day at work. It's a situation that keeps manifesting. Like, it keeps coming back up. So you have to keep dealing with it. It's that makes it a lot harder to deal with than, like you said, just going somewhere and venting. Normally, you're like, oh, good, whatever. The problem is you could go do that, and then an hour later, it's right there again. So it's,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's really been a struggle for me trying to manage my emotions in the workplace, and it's tough, and I don't know the answers. I really don't. And maybe if you guys have some suggestions, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas and suggestions. I mean, at this point, I am working to find stability where I'm at in my processes and how I'm doing my job and how I'm working. I'm working with my coworkers on this as well. So I'm enlisting help, and I'm trying to work through it the best way I can. But at this moment, I don't have the option of walking away. I don't have the option of doing much else other than finding a way to manage my emotional state while I'm under a lot of pressure and frustration.
Yeah.
So it's just so I'm working through it, and it's tough, but I'm getting there, and I'm trying to recognize my wins. I'm trying to give myself kudos for the good days.
Yeah.
And the bad days, trying to focus on the positive things, the good things. Sometimes it's just as simple as I'm getting a paycheck.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, I'm dealing with a lot of stuff, but they are paying me, which is a bonus. So, and money does make things somewhat easier to handle sometimes.
Yeah.
When you're getting paid for something.
Right.
So, there's balances there. But something that kind of came up that is actually going to be the focus of the show this week. It's a recurring theme that seems to keep popping up in my life, in my head, and I have a feeling probably in a lot of yours as well, not just you, Brian, but also our audiences, which is, why can't I be normal?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a whine. It's definitely a complaint, but it's one of those things that's born out of the frustration. It's like, God, why can't I just be normal? Why can my brain not work the same as other people's? It's like, why am I chosen to have to deal with this junk? Why can't somebody else, or why can't I take a pill and just not have to worry about this anymore? Why isn't there an easy fix?
It's funny because one of the things I found really interesting about this show is that we generally don't go, okay, next week's theme is this. Like, we usually, the week of the show, we kind of gauge what's happening to us and in our world, and that's how we've pretty much done the topics.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many times one of us has said a topic and the other's like, oh, yeah, that's blah, blah. It's just been, it's worked out so well. And this is another one. I'm not going to lie. Last night, I was actually sitting in my room going, why can't I be normal? Why can't I just go out and enjoy this and this? And this was right on the tip of my tongue. I actually wrote it down last night for a blog topic. Which, as I've told you before, like different times when I've presented a topic, it's been stuff I was going to write blogs about. And I wrote it down as a blog topic because I was like, I've never really approached this. So it's just amazing how many times we've lined up perfectly on the topic of the week just based on our life experiences.
Exactly.
It's not like I said, it's not like we have a list of 20 things and we're like, oh, let's do this one this week. It's,
Yeah, it's very organic.
Yeah.
It's very organic. And coincidentally enough, there's a podcast called Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. And I'd like to kind of put this out. There's a little bit of a disclaimer. I love this podcast. Absolutely adore it. I adore Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes. Those of you who don't know who these people are, they're otherwise known as Jay and Silent Bob, from Clerks, Clerks 2, Chasing Amy, Dogma. Most recently, Kevin Smith is a director, and he's directed some things like Cop Out. Gosh, I could go on. IMDb in them, you know, and look them up. But the focus of this show in particular is Jason Mewes. Jason, from a very young age, at one point he talks about pretty much from age 14 on, he's had some sort of a substance abuse issue. It got really, really bad, and he was in and out of rehabs for a good portion of his adult life. He's been in and out of rehabs and has relapsed quite a lot. Well, they created this podcast after the last time he came sober. A couple weeks after that, he went and they created this podcast as a way to help keep him accountable for being sober, to kind of enlist the audience that they have gotten through their movies to just, you know, give him another reason, people that he had to answer to.
Yeah.
So the podcast, it's very blue, as a lot of their sense of humors are. You know, there's a lot of focus on, you know, dick jokes and sexual humor and stuff. But he also talks about things that have happened, positive and negative, through the whole drug abuse and all of the different things he's been through. Now, that being said, I'm very, very, very happy to say that he's been clean and sober for over 5 years now. He was able to pull his life together. He's got a wonderful wife, a house. They own a house now. He's got a beautiful baby girl. He's an amazing father, and he's just really gotten his life together, which is not an easy feat, as we all can imagine. But he's been able to stay clean and sober. And we're going to play a snippet of the episode, which is 167, that I was listening to. And before this snippet, he was talking about how he doesn't miss the drugs. He misses
he misses the social parties and stuff.
Exactly.
Like, he actually gives an example of, and I'm sure a lot of people can, because I just did this a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I went to my buddy Tony's house. We had they had friends over. We sat around. We all were drinking. We played board games. Him and his wife don't go do that because it's, you know, they don't want to be around the booze because it's too strong of a draw for him. Mm-hmm. So he then doesn't get to partake in these, you know, activities because he's making the decision. I'm sure he still gets invited to stuff, but he's making that decision that, hey, that's probably not the best place for me to be. Exactly,
because of what he's dealt with.
Right.
And stuff. And so and he talks, before this, he's talking about how it's just, you know, it's why me? Why am I stuck? Why can't I just go and have a beer? Why can't I just go and, you know, hang out with everybody, have a good time, and that be it?
Yeah.
You know, he knows that even 5.5 years later, that if he goes and has a drink, that's going to lead a slide for him. And he can't, the one thing they always mention on the show is manage your high. You know, whatever it is, manage your high. And he openly admits he cannot manage any high whatsoever.
Right.
So, you know, and it just leads to bad things for him. So he stays away from them. So he talks a little bit about that. But then they've introduced a new segment to their show where he has found a bunch of the journals that he used to write in whenever he went into rehab. And so he reads little snippets from this journal, and it's very, very interesting listening to somebody who is at that moment in time coming off of probably at least a year or two of very, very heavy narcotics and heavy abuse, and someone who's just kind of opening their eyes and seeing the world for what it is around them, and understanding and learning how to manage and survive in this world, which he's never learned how to do. So it's very interesting. So I want to take a moment for us to kind of take a listen to this, and we're going to have a little discussion afterwards. So with that, Jason and Kevin.
Fucking brain, dude.
And it's so goofy. So again, I must have been either a poem or a song, because I write almost like what do they call it? Like chorus. So it starts off: comments, sarcasm, ignorance. Comments, sarcasm, hate. I don't know how I deal with the opinions and circumstances of ignorant humans.
These are terrible lyrics.
This is that's what I mean. I don't think it was lyrics, but I don't know why.
Let me hear the first two lines. You almost have me with the first two lines because there's a repetitive chorus there. What is it? What is it?
It says comments, sarcasm, ignorance.
Comments, sarcasm, ignorance.
Comments, sarcasm, hate.
But then the next line is where it kind of falls apart.
So it says, I don't know how I deal with the opinions and circumstances of ignorant humans. This is frustrating.
Wait. Of what? Ignorant humans?
Yes.
What are you, fucking from planet Mars and shit?
I'm telling you, bro.
How do I deal with the humans and their ignorance?
No, totally. This is frustrating and intolerable at best. So has the journey begun, living life on life's terms and adapting to feelings without the option of narcotics, of being numb and comfortable in my own skin.
You fucking wrote that? That's pretty good, dude. It's not bad. I mean, it's a little fucking flowery, but it's pretty fucking good.
Here it goes. Comments, sarcasm, ignorance. Comments, sarcasm, ignorance this time for some reason. Double ignorance.
You were onto something and you abandoned it. You're like, fuck it, it's not good enough.
Slowly I learned how to cope with life without the dope. These obstacles that I have
that was close to a rhyme right there.
These obstacles that I have been born with have been interfering for far too long, and trying to change my way of thinking is such a task which is inconceivable. Knowing that it is natural...
Hold on. Inconceivable.
Unbelievable. No, I'm just kidding. So, yes, and trying to change my way of thinking is such a task which is... I'm just saying what I wrote here. Unconceivable.
Fair enough.
Knowing that it is natural and normal for others. Comment, sarcasm, ignorance. Comment, sarcasm, ignorance.
Are you sure this isn't a Drake song?
I'm telling you. I don't know. I shall conquer these behaviors, reframe my thoughts. Cognitive reframing is key to my everyday encounters. Will be tolerable and comfortable to deal with. Wait, reframing is key to my everyday encounters. Will be tolerable and comfortable to deal with. And that was the end of that one.
That's actually not bad, dude. Like,
it's weird.
All right, folks. So that was a snippet from episode 167 of Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. If you want to check it out, I highly recommend it. Just make sure it's not safe for work. There's a lot of blue humor, like I said, less sex and a lot of craziness. But I really wanted to make sure that that I brought that out, because it just spoke so much to me. It just spoke such volumes. That somebody who, I mean, obviously you could tell some of it is stuff that he's learning from his therapy and stuff, because that's based upon Jason's normal vocabulary and how he speaks. That's nothing like how he normally speaks. Normally it's dick and fart jokes. So for him, he was getting influenced by the area and the people around him and stuff. But it really struck me, because how often do we feel that way? It's like, it's the comments, it's the ignorance that surrounds us that people don't understand. But on the flip side, how do we explain to help them understand?
Yeah,
because they are never going to, because they're never going to be able to get that.
But at the same time, they should, because no matter who you are, you've probably got a why am I not like others, or why am I not normal? Because, I mean, even if you don't have a mental health issue, well, I mean, I don't want to say not have a mental, but going back a little bit to last week, or the week before that, whenever it was, when we talked about body issues or something. It's as an overweight guy, I'm like, man, why can't I just be normal? Why can't I be $185?
Mm-hmm.
Or 170 or whatever the heck is normal, considered normal. Like, why can't I be that? Like, why can't I just be that? Why do I have to be way overweight and this and and then like but then with the mental health stuff, it's like, why can't I just go hang out with people and enjoy myself without the doubts and the anxiety and all that? It's and to where at times you talk yourself out of it or whatever. It's like, why can't I just, like, even if it's like, God, why can't I have a month like of just being normal, or a week or whatever? And like you said, it'd be great if you could take a pill or whatever. It's like, but I was on antidepressants and that didn't solve the problem. It helped. It helped, but it didn't solve it, because there is no solving this problem. It's
right.
The best you can do is hope that you find ways to, keep it as far away from you as possible. Like I always said, it's, it's like just trying to run and outrun something, like as long as I stay a step ahead of it, I'm good. As long as I stay kind of a thing.
Right.
So, yeah.
It just, it's inconceivable sometimes.
Yeah.
Like he said multiple times in there, it's inconceivable how you're going to be able to function this way. It gets so overwhelming, and it gets so just, I guess overwhelming is the best word for it. It's just, you can't conquer it, and you can't go over it, can't go under it, can't go through it.
Yeah.
It's just there,
yeah.
and you have to find a way to accept it. I had a little plaque for a long time that says, you don't have to understand, you just have to accept. Because that's so true in so many parts of our lives. Interactions with other people.
Yeah. Well, realistically, it's if you can do that, you'll stay way more sane than a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because I'm the kind of person that I have to understand. It is intolerable for me to not understand. I have to know. I have to have reasons. If you tell me something, I have to know why. Because I can't understand it. So if I know why, then I feel I have a better chance of understanding it, kind of a thing. But it's to the point of like obsession with things. Like, I have to have the why of things. Otherwise, it drives me crazy. So it's a really tough situation to deal with that. But if I could just, there are people that you tell them something and they just go, okay, and they just move on, and I'm like, how can you do that? Like, how? Like, how do you not ask, I don't really care, or, what's it matter? It's still going to be this and this. And it's like, well, that's true, but how do you not, it's like, they don't care about B. They're like, if A, then C. There's no B to them, and they're okay with it. Whereas I'm like, not only is there B, there might be B.1, and,
Right. You're missing whole big parts of this.
Yeah.
How can you be okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's cracks me up because it reminds me of an episode of Big Bang Theory where they're trying to help Sheldon with his need for completing everything.
Yeah.
It's like he has to, everything has to have an end. You have to complete stuff.
Yeah.
And his girlfriend, which I can't remember her name at this time, but his girlfriend takes it upon herself to retrain his brain to be okay with things.
I actually think this is one of the very few episodes of the show I've watched. Yeah.
And it is so funny because, like, she plays half a song.
Yeah.
They play tic-tac-toe, but before he can win, she erases it.
Yeah.
And, does different things like that, and it irritates him and frustrates him, and he gets so angry. And towards the end, he's calm and he's okay with everything and everything's good. And she's like, well, good, I'm glad that we made some breakthroughs and everything's, good, and that you're able to handle, incomplete things. And he's like, oh yeah, everything's great, no problem, whatever. So she leaves. And the moment she leaves, he resets every little test that she put on him. He like re-sings happy birthday to the completion. He sets up his dominoes and then knocks them all down, and he has to go through each and every one of those tests and finish the test.
Well, it really is. First of all, I think with him, I don't know if they've ever claimed it or not, but I think the theory with him is that his character is autistic. But if nothing else, he's also has OCD. And somebody with OCD, that's the kind of stuff they do to try to break people of those habits, even though it's a very difficult thing to, where you have to wash your hands 5 times or 6 times, or you can't have odd numbers. You have to have even numbers. And it's really difficult. And that's where at times, like, I get those kind of compulsions, but that's about where mine ends. Is it's like I said, it's like I have to know why. I've always been that person. I've always questioned things. I always want answers, and it's I've always looked for the answers. Like I always, if there's something I don't know, I've always been the type to go, I'm going to go find out, and to my detriment. Like to excess, essentially. And the internet has just made it worse because now I can find the answer to anything almost. So I can sit on the internet for hours just, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know, well, why is that? So I type it in and,
Which is awesome. The desire
well, it's
to
good
learn
and bad.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that is a good thing.
Yeah.
But, excessive anything is not a good thing.
Exactly. That's why I said, the internet just, like, I've always been that kid, and I used to have to go to the library, get the encyclopedias, and read up or read in magazines or whatever. Now I just pull my phone up, and I, and I have all of it, and it's like, it's like going, I like to have a beer occasionally, and someone going, here, let me hook a keg to your arm, and I'm like, this is the greatest idea ever. Until,
just Google it just a little bit.
Like 3 hours later, and you're like, this was a terrible idea,
But the problem comes in to the places that are unexplainable, such as feelings, emotions, and in particular, mental illness and addictions. There is no explanation why one person can have a beer and be fine, and another person has a beer and it leads to a keg.
Yeah.
There's...
And there's people in between those, too. Like, there's people who can't just stop at one, basically, but they also don't go to full excess, and those might be the most dangerous people. Because they're the ones drinking 6 or so beers a night and going, I'm fine, I can drive, no worries, whatever, because that person who drinks 10 or 12 is probably too drunk. A lot of times they're going to drink to full excess. Now, I'm not saying they won't drive because obviously, there's plenty of examples of how that works. But, it's just interesting. The ones who will drink 5 or 6, they'll go out with people and they'll be like, oh, wow, you had a few last night. I'm like, whatever. They don't seem like it's a problem.
Yeah.
They're that middle ground person. They don't seem like an alcoholic or a druggie or whatever it happens to be here. Yeah.
So and it's just there is no explanation why. Kind of going back to our original, it's like, why me?
Yeah.
There is no reason why you. Yeah. Other than we're all different. Maybe someday science will come up with a reason why for all these things.
I mean,
they've been working on it.
Yeah, I was going to say there are factors, but there's not any one cause. No, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're working on it. They're trying to figure it out. But there's no concrete answer as to why you or why someone has to deal with these things, and why I can't keep my emotions in check when I'm stressed and frustrated.
Yeah.
It just, I wish there was, but there isn't. So the next step is you have to accept.
Yeah.
And that's probably the hardest concept for anyone to get, because I mean, everybody struggles with it from day one. That's not fair. Well, no, it's not. It's that simple concept that kids say a million times over as they're growing up. Like, wait a minute, that's not fair. Well, no, you're right. Life's not fair. It's not fair. And it's not fair that you have to struggle with this.
Right. Or my favorite is I tell little kids, like if they do it's not fair. It's like
Mhm.
it only gets worse as you get older. Like it does not get better. Life gets less fair the older you get.
Mhm.
The only way it can get a little more fair is because in a lot of ways you can control the factors a little bit more.
Right.
Whereas a kid, you're told what to do. Whereas an adult, I mean, you're still told what to do, but you have a little more choice in certain things. Like
Yeah.
no one's telling you what you have to wear. I mean,
Right.
you may have a uniform for work or something, but you know what I'm saying. It's in your normal day, you can choose what you're wearing.
But
for the
there's
most
always
part.
consequences.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's just whether you want to deal with the consequences
Yeah.
or not. It's up to you.
definitely.
But there's always consequences
Yeah.
for everything that you do. But yeah, so it's in a whole interesting concept, and it's something that I don't think there's going to be, like many things we talk about, there's no answer. I mean, there is no right answer or wrong answer to any of this,
Well,
other than then we've got to find our way to accept. And I think a good place to start with that is death. Because death is like the ultimate of acceptance.
mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
because you can explain away why someone died. There's always science behind it,
yeah,
but you can't, in the cosmic scape, you can't explain it as easily.
no,
Like,
and you can't
because it's
fix
like,
it.
well, why them? Why did you and I lose a friend who was
Mhm.
23 or 22, whatever he was? Why do people lose? A woman in a kick group I'm in, a friend of hers, 38 years old, had a massive coronary. Why do we lose? Like why does that happen? Why isn't it happening to, like when the same exact thing happens to someone who's 80, no one goes, oh, it was, too early. It's like, no, generally people go, hey, they had a long life, or a full
Mhm.
life or whatever,
Yeah.
and but there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just
Mhm.
dead,
Right. And the same things that they recommend when dealing with death and the permanence of it, I think we can apply to handling all of those questions, whatever they're questions about, but the whole why me? Regardless of what you're saying why me about, I think there is a lot to be said for going through the mourning process and dealing with those emotions and processing them. Because, something I always tell people when they're struggling with illness, surprise illnesses or illnesses in their lives and things, the loved ones of people who are diagnosed with illnesses, as I always tell them, is make sure you allow yourself time to mourn your dreams.
Yeah.
It's like, because we all have those dreams and those fantasies of who we want to be or what's going to happen. And, and me and my loved one are going to do this, we're going to do that, all this wonderful, wonderful stuff. That's a part of you.
Yeah.
When someone gets diagnosed with an illness and things are going to change, or when you yourself get diagnosed with an illness and things are going to change, those dreams don't just go away.
Yeah.
You have to give yourself time to say, this sucks.
Again, though, I think it comes down to they're really the plaque thing that you mentioned
Mhm.
is that there's people who want to understand it. Why
Mhm.
me? Why this? Why now? And then there's people who can just accept it. I mean, my dad got
Mhm.
was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I never once heard him say the words, why me? He may have, but I never heard him.
Right.
He accepted it. From day one, it was acceptance. Like, I know he had, probably he had his breakdown moments and such, but when he talked to us, it was a message of,
Mhm.
a message of acceptance. So it's like, I don't know. It's just how, it's the two approaches.
Mhm.
Everybody
gets to their acceptance in different times.
Yeah.
In different speeds. I think we all go through similar
We've
stages,
gotten way off topic, by the way. Our
Oh.
topic was supposed to be, why can't I be normal?
Well, I think why me and why can't be.
Yeah, I
normal,
know.
they all fit the same thing.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking about it. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. Because I think this applies to the why me, why can't I be normal? Well, you kind of have to take a step back and process through all of those emotions. Why can't I be normal? Yeah, it's frustrating and it sucks, but you have to find your way to acceptance with it. Yeah. You know, just like death, just like illness, just like any major change in your life or something that you've dealt with all your life and you have to continue to deal with. You have to put aside, you have to identify those dreams, those hopes, those, thoughts that you've had of being the 180. Maybe you'll be there someday. But as of right now, that's not in your near future.
Yeah.
So you have to become okay with that. You have to let yourself mourn it. Say, this really sucks. I don't want to. I don't want to have to accept these things. But you spend your time, mourn those dreams, get angry.
Wait's one I don't agree with you on.
Right.
Because there are options.
Right.
I could go have a stomach bypass and I'd get to that 180 no problem. I could, go bust my butt in the gym and all that, and I could get there. It'd take me a while, but I could get there, so it's...
Right, but you kind of see where I'm
going.
Yeah.
With most things, I agree with it. With Wade, that was maybe a bad example on my end. But
right.
It was,
I'll give you that. It's probably not the best choice.
Right.
But get angry. Allow yourself to be angry. Allow yourself to be frustrated. And then once you've moved through those emotions, you'll find yourself coming back to acceptance.
Yeah.
And saying, you know what? This is my life. This is what I'm living. Now, once you're at acceptance, then you can move forward with, now what am I going to do? Make it better. And start, that's where you can use that as a launching off point of rebuilding your dreams. That the dreams that you mourned, those may not come true, but there are new dreams to be dreamt. So start focusing on the new dreams, the dreams that come from the current state that you're in, and that's where you work towards. And I think that's where the whole weight situation comes in. It's like once you get rid of the old stuff, and then you open yourself up to those new dreams. That, you know what? Maybe I'll never be a supermodel, but I can be healthy. So let's take those steps.
Well, I think the inherent problem is the word normal.
Yes.
Because the word normal is maybe one of the most powerful and damaging words ever. Because realistically, there is no normal. There's a median, there's means, there's all this kind of stuff. But there isn't really a normal kind of a thing. We've all got some weird tick to us. Every person I've ever met has something about them that's really weird compared to the other 30 people you know or work with. Everyone's got a little something. So in that, you are normal because you have something. Like, some is worse, some are worse than others, but there's always something. There's always that person who's, repetitive about eating the same thing for lunch every day, or there's a person who has to read a newspaper or something while they're eating and gets mad. There's rituals that we all have that are our free throw line, practice shots. And it's one of those things because I have fought with the why can't I be normal since I was, I don't know, probably 8 years old. Because I was fatter than the other kids. I was smarter than a lot of the kids. I learned faster. I read faster, and then as I got older, you see less and less of it because, you start becoming the smaller fish in the big pond. The pond changes,
Yeah.
And, but I still, why am I the kid that gets ignored? Why is that kid not getting ignored? Why is it, that kind of stuff. And it's those kind of things that and again, with me, it's my obsession on why, because, and it's like, why do I want to be that person or whatever?
Right.
And that's the thing. There is no, if you go back to high school, all the people who didn't fit in anywhere, they're probably the normal kids.
Mm-hmm.
Really, there's very few kids that are just really well adjusted and don't belong to a clique necessarily that are in high school. You either belong to a clique or you're one of those outsider kids. That's kind of so you're in a clique by default almost.
Right.
You know, and that's where I felt, was in that group, and because I didn't fit any of the other stuff because, you know, that's just not me. And that's where, if you look at the school, that's where most of the kids fit. They don't fit in the cliques, the jocks, the goth kids, the, you know, whatever. Like, they fit in that big group, that big blob of just humanity that's most of the school. But a bunch of those kids are the ones going, why can't I be normal? And they're probably looking at the popular kids or whatever and not understanding why they can't be that kid. They're not looking at that average kid in school who kind of keeps their nose down, is semi-quiet, does their work, gets okay grades. They're not looking at that kid when they say, why can't I be normal? They're almost always looking at the extreme.
And that's where we come to that wonderful word, perspective.
Yep.
You know, and understanding how to get outside of yourself and get outside of your own head and get perspective on the situation. Because like you said, how often do we get stuck in our own spaces and we're thinking, you know, grass is greener, or we're not seeing the big picture because we kind of get stuck in our own space.
Yeah.
And when you take that step outside and you look around, it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm more normal than I'm expecting. Or maybe I'm more, I like the word traditional better than normal.
Yeah.
Because I think normal is,
Yeah.
it's a bland word. You know, traditional and non-traditional. You know, I think traditional is people who kind of conform to society's expectations of what should be. Non-traditional is people who have a tendency to take a look outside of society's norms and operate under their own drum.
But even that example has severe perspective slants to it.
Right, because our society is constantly changing.
Just picture this, and I'm not going into a big discussion here, but picture if you're raised in a liberal household versus a conservative household.
Sure.
That's all you need. Or religious versus non-religious. Pick any two things. You know, one family's a Jets family, the other family's a Giants family. It's, you know, doesn't matter what you apply to it. It all works, you know.
Right.
Like, you know, on this, you know, if you're a Patriots fan, Tom Brady's a hero and he's a great player. If you're not a Patriots fan, he's a cheater and a bum, you know. It's
So, basically, it's whatever pond you're in.
Yeah.
You know, some people are salmon, some people are trout, some people are, you know, walleye. All good eats.
Yeah. And that's the thing, though. That's why I said it's like, really, we're all just looking to fit in. You know, and a lot of, you know, just some of us have got other things on top of it that prevent it more, or, you know, maybe we've had you know, something that's kind of pushed us further away type of a thing. You know, there's a lot of kids that are, you know, like I said, I was picked on like crazy growing up, you know, and all
that's honestly becoming the norm.
Yeah.
I think most people have had a pick-on story.
I think it's the opposite way. I think it's becoming less the norm now. You're hearing our generation talk about it, but you're hearing how many things have you seen that are anti-bullying, and things are being considered bullying that when we were kids, if they happened, you were like, you just shrug it off. Like, you know, I'm not going to get, you know, and I'm not going to name names, but you know of someone who went through extreme bullying, getting shoved downstairs and that kind of thing. Most of mine was not physical bullying. Most of mine was name-calling and just constant ribbing and stuff like that. And a lot of people, you know, it toughened you up. Yeah, it didn't. What it did was it made me a mess, and it stripped me of self-confidence. That's what it did. You know, so it didn't make me tougher. Maybe it did, depending, again, perspective.
Right.
Because I haven't put 2 bullets in my face. Maybe it made me stronger. I don't know. But you know what I mean? It's like,
and whoever said you wanted to get stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
In
it's
that
like,
way.
Like,
like,
yeah.
Maybe that's not where I want to pull my strength from. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said it's all in your perspectives, but it's like I said, a lot of stuff that was not considered bullying when we were kids. Like, again, a great example, in baseball, we used to have the chatter. We'd be out in the field, hey, better, hey, better, hey, better, that kind of stuff. You can't do that anymore. They don't allow it because you're messing with the batter's mind. And it's like, that kind of stuff makes me angry because it's like, those are the kind of things in life. If that kind of thing bothers you truly,
yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I can understand a kid may have some anxieties, blah, blah. But it's like, I had anxieties when I was a kid and I played baseball. And I don't know. I just don't buy into that one. There's a lot of those things that I don't buy into. And then there's other ones that I really buy into, that maybe still aren't treated as severely as they should be. Like the kids picking on the other kids because they're fat. That's still tolerated more than anything else. You can pick on a kid about being fat until you're blue in the face, and less people will get outraged than if you pick on that same kid for sexual
reading disabilities.
Yeah, reading disabilities or sexual orientation or anything along those lines. Yeah, and it should all be the same. If you're gonna, hey, don't pick on kids. Don't pick on people. It's like a lot of these guys keep saying, hey, you don't hit women. It's like, no, you shouldn't hit a person. Sex should not matter. You shouldn't hit another person.
Right.
Nothing gives you. You should not think it's okay to hit anybody.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Things happen, but you shouldn't think it's okay. That should not be the norm.
Right.
And I kind of feel that way with bullying. I don't like the idea of, well, this is okay, but this isn't. It's like, well, let's kind of cleave. Yeah.
I think again with everything, moderation. There's a couple underlining themes that run through our shows. Perspective is one, moderation is another. It's just, everything kind of revolves around those things, and it's so tough because again, this is something that's not going to be answered here.
No.
There's
not. There's just, for some people, there is no answer of why can't I be normal? It's just, there's people who go to therapy, they're on the medicines, they're doing all the things they can do, and they still can't find that peace. And there's other people who can go to therapy and not have to go on medicines, or go on a medicine and not have to go through therapy, and they find it. And then you can even just take that small pool right there and go, well, why can't I be one of the ones that just takes a pill and it goes away? Or why can't I just go once a week and talk to a therapist and I'm good? Why do I have to be the one who goes through everything and nothing works? It's, so even looking for the answer might just put you into a different pool of why can't I be normal?
Right.
So that's why it's so hard, I think, is it can shift so easily,
Yeah. And I think the moral of the story, the takeaway, because I know we're probably approaching an hour.
Yeah, we're pretty close.
Yeah. So I think the takeaway for everybody out there, and even for us, and me personally, is work to find you're okay with it. Work to find your acceptance. Yeah. Definitely surround yourself with people who see your value and accept your faults. I think there's the meme that floats around, and there's a lot of sayings around the same subject of when you're picking your partner, don't pick the person who loves you at your best, pick the person who loves you at your worst.
Right.
And I think that's the key, is really find your friends, find your support system with people who accept you when you fall off the handle and when you can't get out of bed and, when you're not doing your best.
Yeah, the people who don't run away when you fall down. Like when you need someone, they're the ones, like we've always said, this is your support system. You know, if time is really tough for you, now again, don't get me wrong, we've mentioned before, it's super hard for people to be friends with somebody who's got depression or different stuff. And we understand that. We're not judging people who do. But if people, when you need them, aren't there for you, they're not part of your support system. Don't make them, don't count on them to be your support system, kind of a thing. Look for people who are willing to invest in that, but also make sure that you're willing to invest in them.
Absolutely. There's the two sides.
Yeah.
Everything always has the two sides to it.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you're doing your part if they're doing their part.
Right.
Another thing that I saw that kind of tickled me was a picture of two girls running next to each other, and it said, "You can tell you're good friends when someone does you wrong, and they stand beside you. And man, that sucks. Your best friend is the person that runs next to you with a bat, says, 'Oh, somebody's in trouble,' Yeah. And it just that tickled me because it's like so true. Because you have your people that will commiserate with you, will understand, will support you, and will be there for you, which are very good friends. And then you have your next core group of people that will call you out when you make mistakes, but will help you through them.
Yeah.
And they'll do what it takes. They'll do whatever needs to be done. That person will kick you in the butt, but also make sure you still stand up, and will hold you up when you need to.
Right.
So get those people around you, get your perspective, utilize the tools that are out there to help you, and work through it. Yeah. Everything is going to be work, and it sucks because we all hate work, but it just takes work.
Yeah, and all I can say is, like I said a little bit ago, is normal's just a word. It's not.
Yep,
it's
there is
nothing
no
else. It's just a word, and it's hard. I understand it because, like I said, I have obsessed at various points in my life for years over wanting to do that, to fit in, to this and that, and all it is it's just chasing after bad. That's all it is. It's all it is. So if you find yourself kind of obsessing on that mentality, distract yourself however you need to. Get your head on something else. Like, don't worry about it. It's I know it sounds a lot easier than it is, but it's just there's just better stuff in the world to worry about. It's just
Absolutely.
too much.
I 110% agree. And I think this is a good time to kind of wrap things up and say, if you want to continue the conversation, please reach out to us. You can reach me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. I don't post all that much, but I am on there often, and I check often. So direct message me, mention me in a post, and I will see it and I will respond. So please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to reach the show, you can reach us you can shoot us an email at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. You can reach us on our website at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. And you, Brian, how can they reach you?
They can reach, if you want to reach me through the show, you can reach me at the Crazy Life Pod. So if you don't want to mention, direct message Jen, you can direct message that account, and I'll make sure that she's part of it. Or you can get me at Stunami on Twitter. Or you can find me at salty_language, which is the other podcast that I do, Salty Language. And you can find that show at saltylanguage.com.
Sounds good.
Also, our intro song, as always, was done by our pal Heno, who you can find on Twitter at Ida Heno. If you want to hear samplings of a bunch of the stuff he's done for other podcasts, you can you could check out Tangent Bound Network, or you could check out Wicked Radio Network, of which we're part, because a lot of those shows already have Heno intros. Or you can, if you're on SoundCloud, you can check Monkey Tongue Productions, and he's got a bunch of his sample stuff posted over there. And then, as always, I want to say, that we're not trained doctors, therapists, or professionals of any kind. We're just people who things happen to, and this is our journey through them. If you do need help, please seek out help. Like, please call your doctor or whatever. Again, I'll point out, if money is a factor, there's a lot of programs out there that states have for mental health a lot of times that are free or reduced cost. If you just need, to reach out to someone, feel free to contact us. But if you need stronger help than that, please seek it. And also, if you're thinking of doing something drastic, please call the suicide hotline prevention line. and this actually, the show won't go up live, but we're recording this on World Suicide Prevention Day. Mm-hmm. So, again, if you know somebody who is kind of down or whatever, you might think has depression or any of these kind of things, reach out to them, say, hey, just check out what's going on. Just make sure they're all right. Because, just something that simple might save a life. So that's all I got.
Absolutely. Somebody once posted a girl and a guy are riding in a car. And the guy, every person he passed, he smiled and waved. And the girl asked him one day, why do you do that? And he said, because someone once told me that somebody waved and smiled at them and it completely changed their day. And ever since then, I did not want to be responsible for ruining someone's day. So I smile and wave at everybody I see and hope that maybe I'm doing a little bit something to make their day better. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a huge lesson for all of us, to really make sure that we're paying attention to each other and taking care of each other, even if we don't know each other.
Well, that's why I posted, I can't remember the website it was from. I had posted it on my Facebook page, and maybe I'll post it to our Twitter so people can see it. But it shows the typical signs of someone who is most at risk to be suicidal. Mm-hmm. And there's 12 things, I think, or so on this like wheel, or pie chart, basically. And I posted it, and then I posted next to it, I was like, for reference, on any given day, I have probably 8 of these factors.
Yeah.
Because I wanted people who know me to go, and I don't know if anyone did, but I hope at least one person went, wow, I didn't realize that. Because I want people to be jarred a little bit by it, because that's how easy it could be for you to not know that someone is suicidal. So I'll try to post that up, and definitely have a look at it. And if you know somebody who meets various criteria on that list, maybe just check in on them from time to time. Just make sure they're doing okay.
Exactly. So and for the record, Brian is not suicidal at this moment in his life.
Yeah, no. Been there, but not there. So.
Yep, not there right now, which is a good place to be.
Yep.
So with that, everybody, I guess it's time to say goodnight. And I hope to hear from you. Please let me know what's going on in your life. Maybe give me some advice, too, because I definitely need it. And I'm sure Brian would appreciate it as well. Yep. Share your stories. Share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, or if there's a topic you'd like us to discuss on the show, feel free to send that in, too.
Absolutely. No names are necessary, so you could always stay anonymous if you need to.
Yep.
No problems there. With that, we'll catch you next week.